It's been 7 years since the announcement of Metroid Prime 4, and 5.5 years since that was entirely scrapped and given back to the Metroid Prime Trilogy creator Retro Studios to start over from scratch. Now, we finally have a gameplay trailer for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This is a fantastic trailer because it uses a short amount of time to portray a lot of key information to the viewer, particularly that this is absolutely a Metroid Prime game, and that this game is following through with everything the Prime series has been setting up since 2007. There's locking on, strafing, missiles, scanning, red damage indicators, item pickups, and so much more. Like the Prime Trilogy, text is used to give us the setting. Both the look and the sound of the typing are different though. What's important is this year, 20X9. The first Metroid game and its remaster Metroid Zero Mission takes place in the year 20X5. At first I thought this would mean that this is 4 years later, which would fit for this game's place in the timeline. But after doing some research, there's unfortunately a lot of contradictions throughout the media for recent games. So we don't have a definitive conclusion on the meaning of this year yet. I'll consider the 4-year difference a thing for my personal headcanon for now. Let me give a brief explanation on where we should be time-wise before we dig into the first footage of gameplay. In Metroid 1, the Galactic Federation sends bounty hunter Samus Aran to eliminate the Metroid threat on the planet Zebes. In Metroid 2, Return of Samus, the Galactic Federation deems the Metroids too dangerous to exist at all, and hires Samus to wipe them out entirely. Therefore, the Metroid Prime Trilogy and its spin-offs takes place in between Metroid and Metroid 2, while the Metroids still exist. After the text, the first thing we see is Samus' gunship dropping off Samus, but the ship does not land. The gunship is the same ship she had in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, though with a slightly different paint job. Samus has had multiple gunships over the years. This is her gunship from Metroid Zero Mission. It was destroyed in that game, but collected by Samus and repaired to turn into this ship used in Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime Hunters. Samus uses this ship in Metroid Prime 2, which is the same ship she uses in Metroid 2, Metroid 3, or Super Metroid, and at the start of Metroid 4, or Metroid Fusion, before it's destroyed. Metroid Prime 3 says that Samus designed this W-shaped ship herself, so I always predicted it would get destroyed somehow in a new sequel because there needed to be some reason she went back to her ship from Prime 2 before moving on with it to Metroid 2. Even if the destruction of the gunship doesn't happen in this game, I appreciate seeing it because it shows the developers are not just paying attention to the original Metroid Prime that they recently remastered, but also are respecting where we left off in Metroid Prime 3, which is truly what this game is the sequel to. However, there is immediately a difference shown in the function of this ship. In Metroid Prime 3, the ship lowers an elevator for Samus to step out of. The trailer shows Samus emerging from the top of the ship, much like her other Chozo ships. In Prime 3, the ship has a segmented section at the top that could act as a hatch, so that is certainly what could be what's being shown here. Samus takes off from the ship using the thrusters on her back. And I love how it sounds like she lands hard, but the fact that her fingers are gently pressing the ground for balance instead of a firm palm on the ground shows strong control over her physicality, as well as a nicer, feminine demeanor. Samus Aran has once again returned in her Varia suit. Already we can see the suit's metal texture from Metroid Prime Remastered has returned, as well as a couple tiny changes to her suit, in the extension of this light here up to this ring, the lights in her shoulder pads not being separated, and her elbow armor that is now attached to the end of her forearm. Though I would personally revert these changes, this is an amazing iteration of what I consider the definitive look of Samus. I couldn't be more pleased. That is, until she looks up. Now we can see from this angle that the visor isn't as sharp as it used to be. It's almost trivial from the front, and we couldn't even tell when she was looking down, but it's really apparent when she stands up. The subtle change gives off a rather soft, round look, which is less intimidating than her prior design in my opinion. I happen to have, given some thought to the intricacies of this visor design for a while now, so I think some minor tweaking would go a long way. The visor's color comes from Metroid Prime Remastered, and is more opaque than it was in that game, which was already even more opaque than it had been before. I hope we can see her eyes more in the full game. Later in the trailer, we'll see the visor also carried over the triangle grid design from Prime Remastered that can be seen at certain angles. When she stands up, we can see her arm cannon has a similar texture to Prime Remastered, which was less polished than in the Prime Trilogy. Her figure is also slightly different. Her waist here is wider, but I don't think it was because she was thinner before. She just looks shorter now, with a bigger head and smaller shoulder pads. It's more proportional to a normal human being, and I think it looks great, but Samus isn't only human, so I think people should be really lenient when discussing realistic proportions of this 6'3" tank with a Barbie build. Lastly, about this Various suit, the armor around her neck isn't as high as before. The boosters on her back are closer to that of Metroid Prime Remastered than Metroid Prime 3, and this plate was added to the back of her neck that is reminiscent of the armor from Mercury Steam's Metroid Samus Returns, though thankfully not as comically large. The intro fanfare we hear is the same that was used all the way back in Metroid 1. But it sounds different than how it does in the Prime games. When Samus commands her ship using her arm cannon, she presses less buttons to do so than in Metroid Prime 3. And the buttons sound very different. It's also possible these sounds, or at least some of them, are actually coming from the fanfare itself, which has similar tones even when Samus stops typing, but I think the majority are coming from the arm cannon. In the first fight scene, we hear that the power beam has retained its sound from the Prime Trilogy. A pirate cries out in pain that sounds much closer to the pirates from Prime 1 and 2 than Prime 3. A fighter flies overhead that is definitely space pirate in design, and this massive pirate destroyer is pulled directly from Metroid Prime 3, which is an awesome touch. Next we see Samus pull up her scan visor, which has had a total makeover. The music playing is a new version of the pirate themes used in the Prime Trilogy. Entering her morph ball, new electric effects have been added all over Samus' suit, matching the color of the light of the morph ball, which is consistent in appearance to the various suits' morph balls in the Prime Trilogy. When Samus goes into the tunnel, she still has 3 bombs available to use when in morph ball, which is indicated here. I love how you can see these pirates preparing to blow this door and succeed when Samus enters the next room. The soldiers in this room have the blue visored helmets from previous games, and the game still shows the red indicators of the pirates being damaged. There's an energy tank in this tunnel for Samus to collect to increase her maximum armor shield strength, and we can see the feds are quickly wheeling something away that looks similar to the design in the title logo, possibly what the pirates have come here for. This drop pod gives us a great look at the pirates, who have the color scheme of the pirates from Metroid Prime 1, but more of the overall silhouette of the pirates from Prime 3. And finally, we cut to reveal the big baddie of the game, flanked by 4 pirates and 2 Metroids. This is Sylux, a bounty hunter fought in Metroid Prime Hunters for the Nintendo DS, as well as a playable character in its awesome multiplayer mode. He's still wearing his stolen Federation prototype armor and holding his signature weapon, the Shock Coil, from the DS as well. As far as we know, Sylux is not a space pirate, but another hunter from the DS game, Weevil, was. Maybe we'll see them team up in this game or something. Sylux's ship appeared at the end of Metroid Prime 3 chasing Samus, but we wouldn't learn this was Sylux for a fact until 9 years later. After 6 years without a Metroid game, Nintendo released Metroid Prime Federation Force for the 3DS, a game so tone-deaf of what Metroid was, and what state the series had been in, that the backlash was unrelenting. I personally may have liked the game if it wasn't for its stupid Funko Pop looking chibi art style, but people were up in arms also over the fact that even after years without a Metroid game, we wouldn't even be playing as Samus in this one. The backlash was so intense that Nintendo would announce Metroid Prime 4 a year later in 2017, despite having nothing to show for it, as well as announcing a day later that they would be releasing a remake of Metroid 2 Return of Samus for the 3DS, as Samus's big return to gaming, purposefully titled Metroid Samus Returns. The announcement of Metroid Prime 4 with its Silux-themed color scheme was met with universal excitement, but it was not too big a surprise to the 6 of us who actually played Federation Force. In one of the later missions, an optional objective in the game is to bring a Metroid egg back to the ship with you. This egg hatches at the end of the game if you complete the side objective. In a post-credit scene, we can see the first-person view of an individual sneaking into the facility to steal the Metroid. The scene ends by zooming out enough to see this spiked blue shoulder, whom fans would recognize as Silux. My questions lie with these parasites here. First, why aren't they attacking? Metroids have always attacked whoever they could, in both the Prime series and the mainline series, the first chance they get. The only being in the galaxy capable of controlling the Metroids is Mother Brain, who is not capable of moving, let alone space travel to attack a planet under Federation control. Second, these are actually not Metroids. Metroids distinctly have 3 internal nuclei. Prime 3's X-ray visor picks up on their heat source, Dark Samus has 3 eyes to show this, and even when Samus herself becomes the last Metroid, her suit, which is tied to her DNA, takes new form to look like a Metroid and portrays 3 nuclei on her back. Instead, these are Mocktroids, single-nucleated failed Metroid clones, incapable of even maintaining a grip with their weak, ineffective talons. Is it possible these are clones of the Metroid Silux stole and they've bonded with him somehow? Guess we'll have to wait and see in 2025. The reveal of this unclear date does a great job showing this game will have much to explore, and its music portrays the atmospheric tone we've come to expect. Listen to this short music clip from Metroid Prime. Now listen to this new track from Prime 4. I don't know if we'll be seeing the return of the amazing composers Kenji Yamamoto or Minako Hamano that have been pivotal in making these games what they are, but I appreciate that the music from this trailer is respecting the legacy of Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Phazon is gone, Metroid Prime is dead, and the story is continuing in the direction they've been alluding to. I'm not a fan of the name because it reminds me of every single game adding infinite to their name, but it certainly gets the message across that we're finally moving on to something new.